Welcome to our latest Book Reporter Talks to interview, where I am actually filming today at my home with my fellow Jerseyite, Harlan Coben, who's at his home. See, people from New Jersey, we can just figure things out even in a crisis. We're going to be talking about his 31st book. Is this really the 31st?
Yeah, I think so. I'm always losing
I
count
counted.
too, but I think it's 31st. Oh, did you? Good. Okay, there we go. 31.
There we go. The Boy from the Woods, which I just finished this morning. Absolutely love it. And I just want you to know, I always wear turquoise, but today to match Carlin's book, I've gone for my gold and black scarf. Anything that we do promote selling books. So the book's back there, and we'll be sharing lots about it. So welcome, Harlan.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Thanks very much. Well, it's not nice to be here. I'm home. But
Yeah, you're home.
To talk to all of you nice people out there in Chicago, of course.
You're a homebody, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you always have such interesting stories about how you get the idea for starting the book. I mean, I still remember it from Runaway. I still remember, you know, your idea for Runaway. So where was the start of this one? Because it's always a good story.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was hiking in the Ramapo Mountains, which is not far from me here in New Jersey. I don't know if people know the Appalachian Mountains reach New Jersey, but they do. So anyway, I was hiking through the mountains, and as I'm hiking, I'm thinking, I don't like hiking. Hiking is boring. I mean, after a while, okay, I get it, trees. You know what I mean? I'm looking for a coffee shop. I'm looking for a bookstore, window shop. I'm getting bored as my want. And I noticed like a little boy kind of wandering around in the woods. And I thought to myself, the boy's around 6 or 7. So suppose a boy just came out from the woods right now, and he swore he always lived there. He had no recollection of any life before that. He rummaged for food. He broke into houses for food and shelter and other thing. And no one knows. No one claims him. No one knows anything about him. He's 6 years old. Now 30 years pass, and he still doesn't know. His name is Wild now. He's been raised. No one knows. And then suppose somebody else disappeared in those woods. And that was the seed that became the boy.
So you're sitting there, you're hiking in the woods, and right now, doesn't hiking in the woods sound so safe right now? I feel like if we went hiking in the woods, we won't run into anybody. Hiking in the woods, you could be organizing trips right now, and people would
maybe not the Ramapo Mountain, because the entrance there, 1 million people are fly by. But once you get in the woods, yeah, it's probably pretty cool.
It's like so interesting. So Wilde's this really interesting character because he's been growing up in the wilderness all this time. What was it like developing him? Because he's got all these quirks because he grew up on his own.
Well, I wanted a different kind of serious character. I didn't want Myron or Wynn or some other people that I've created. So I thought, what would life be like if you had spent 6 years or all of your life, all of your memories up until the age of 6, 7, 8, whatever. No one really knows his age when he's grabbed because he doesn't remember. You spent alone in woods with no parents, no nothing. I mean, you'd have to be different. You'd have to have learned to cope. You'd have to be kind of a little bit of a survivalist. You'd have trouble, which I like for a character. He has trouble connecting to people. And so I end up moving back himself into the woods because he just doesn't fit in. So I always start thinking, well, what would it be like if I was that person? What would it be like? And then you kind of go from there.
You know, it's interesting. Our reviewer, Ray Palin, our review is going up on Friday, said he's also ultra fastidious about everything. He has set ways of doing things, and it may be because he's always been on his own and he doesn't know another way. So we saw that right away.
Yep, that could be.
And, you know, at one point, one of the teen characters refers to Wild as Boo Radley. And that was kind of an interesting kind of a segue for the kids to be sitting there saying that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, he's just sort of like this mysterious stranger in town. He has what they call an Eco Capsule. It's like a metal tube that he basically lives in the middle of the woods. So, you know, when I grew up, we always had stories about people who maybe live in the woods or the town. And I think of him as a Boo Radley character, that sort of mysterious character who's just sort of standing around. So when he locates one of the people, and she's like, you know, everyone thinks he was kind of like the Boo Radley of town. I'm just kind of like, yeah, so I think I would think of her. All the kids still read Mark Twain. Sorry, Leah Harper, To Kill a Mockingbird. And I just thought that would be kind of an interesting
good reference point. You know, when I grew up in Bloomfield, and we grew away a couple of blocks from under the parkway. Like you could actually walk under the parkway, right? And we would go under there and play. I'm always thinking, like, that was such a crazy thing. Like, you know, where are we going to go this afternoon? We're going to go under the parkway. You hear the cars going over you and stuff like that. But you always like, who are you going to meet down there? Is there some guy living under the parkway? And I feel like I was thinking of that when I was thinking of Wild, you know?
Yeah, exactly. He's that, the guy that you start rumors about in town. So no one really knows. He has no interest in talking to them or whatever else. So he's just sort of a mystery. And he's I have two lead characters. I'm sure, we'll get to Hester Crimstein in a moment.
Yep.
But it was an interesting thing too, to team him up with a 70-year-old grandmother who's also a famous TV lawyer. Right. So two of them together, I thought would be an interesting pair.
Yeah, it's complete juxtaposition of characters, complete juxtaposition of what's going back and forth. And the place where he lives, you've got it so well described. It's like this silo that everything has to be precise and perfect,
Yeah, they have these things. Some people call them by different names. So I call it the Eco Capsule, which is a real product. And it's basically, it's like living in a tube. Wow. And so, it's very, very small. He doesn't need much, and he lives mostly outdoors, and he sticks that thing in the woods. And you can gather water, have enough rainwater, or if not rainwater, bring the water places. You have solar energy, and they actually do work. Right now, they sound kind of attractive, quite frankly.
Yeah, they sound
actually,
really
I was reading it, they're both kind of like, well, who would want to live there? And at the same time going, I kind of like one of these. So there's a little bit of both.
A little bit of that at this point. You know what I was thinking of too is Greg Hurwitz's character, Evan Smoke. And I would love Evan Smoke, who lives on his own and has this whole, method of doing things, to team up with Wild. I mean, those two together, I think would be like an absolutely crazy thing, These two incredibly quirky guys. He might have to start drinking vodka like, Evan Smoke, but, it'd be fun to watch them.
Maybe.
So let's talk about Hester. She is a no filter, definitely smart talking criminal attorney. And she's been in books of yours before. So
yes,
the reason to bring her back was?
I brought her back a lot because she's great. She's almost mostly a comic sidekick, comic entertainment. She's very funny whenever my characters need a wisecracking lawyer. She's a good lawyer. She's funny. The readers love her. And so I decided, I'd like to get to know her. What's her full background? What's her story? And then, I came up, this is what ideas you see, like I make it sound so simple in a sense with the whole thing in the woods. But so you kind of have this character, but going nowhere. And then I think, how can I hook up this character with Hester Crimstein? There's like no way. And then what I do is I give them they share a tragedy. But right. That tragedy, as you learn fairly early in the book, they share a tragedy. And even though when the book opens, they haven't seen each other in years, that bond stays. So in Hester's grandson, who's in school with the girl who goes missing, so it goes to his grandma, I want you to help me find this missing girl. We don't know why he's so interested in that. She naturally then goes to someone she hasn't spoken to in, I think, 6 or 7 years. Wild, because they still have this, tragedy is bond. And so they still have this bond.
Yeah, and so as a result, the loss of her, they're also thinking of their other loss. So there's like this bond between them. They think of that, and they're knowing what those people are going through for that girl being gone because of what they've already felt.
I think it gives her an extra emotional punch. They both have dealt with a loss and want to prevent more of it.
Yeah, it's so when you're drawing back, how many books has she been in? I was trying to remember.
A lot. I don't have the count, but my guess is 20 of the 32, probably 20 of them. She's helped Myron out. She's in Runaway. And in fact, I have a one sentence overlap with Runaway. If people read closely, if you don't read, it's not spoiling anything. And if you haven't read Runaway, you won't get it. But because it exists in both worlds, both stories are actually kind of going on at the same time. Runaway and The Boy from the Woods. But yeah, I'd say about 20 books probably. My guess is.
Wow, it's a good character to keep bringing back.
Thanks.
Besides them, this book has this very multi-layered plot. I mean, there's a lot going on. And as I was thinking there, I was trying to pick up clues, but you definitely stumped me a lot. Like I sat there and it's like, wait, I think I get where we're going. And then it would be completely twisting me in a completely different direction, which I guess is what you wanted to have happen.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I hope. Yeah, it leads down a lot of false paths. But yes, there's a lot of, I hope the book's twist and turny. It starts with one kid disappearing, then a second kid disappearing. And before you know it, these two kids disappearing somehow.
Well, it's interesting because there are a lot of very powerful people in this book, and there are things that they're trying to hide. And what we've learned recently in the news and every place, that the things that you thought you could hide all those years, you suddenly can't. And the multi layers of what happens because of that. Was this inspired by a lot of things you're seeing going on right now?
I'm always writing contemporary novels. This novel takes place, well, not in the world right now today. It was the world a week ago, I guess.
Right.
So I'm trying to reflect what I see there, which is a lot of media manipulation, fake news, people, being easily fooled, how they do it. There's one chapter where a certain politician's in trouble, and it looks like it's curtains for him, and he basically explains how he's going to use social media to get out of it easily, and it would definitely work. And I think as you read that chapter, you think the same thing. He's completely gone, and then by the end of it, you get, oh, that's exactly what would happen in reality. So, I'm playing with. I'm not taking right or left. I have more the horseshoe. It's more about the horseshoe effect of politics, I think, a little bit. But I don't like to be a political book. I'm using that to really write a compelling, gripping narrative. So it goes all over. This book really does go all over the place. It really explodes in interesting ways involving politicians and TV producers and rich people and the schoolyard kids and pranks. Yeah, I rarely meet a plot twist I don't like, for those who read me. So this one's stuff filled, but in the end, it all really does come together. I promise.
Yeah, it does. It does come together. But I do also thought that it was so timely. It's completely timely because people think they can get away with things from years ago, and it's never going to be found. And then all of a sudden, the way things unravel, and people think they're so safe, and they're absolutely not, because there's one person that's out to get them, and then they're going to figure it out. You've often said, when you start writing, you've got the beginning and the end. On this one, I'm going to tell people don't read ahead, because that ending, you go a couple of different ways. Did you always know that was the end this time?
I knew all of the endings. Yes, I knew all the plot endings in terms of who did it. Not to give anything away, but on the very, very last 3 or 4 sentences, he has to make a decision. And I thought I knew what he was going to do with that decision, but until I actually wrote it, I wasn't exactly sure. I said, okay, I think I know where he's going to go, but until I write it and he's in that moment and he's presented with this situation, which is maybe, when I say last page, I mean maybe last paragraph. Until I actually wrote that last paragraph, I wasn't sure what he was going to do.
Right. And as soon as you did that, you didn't think about going back. That was it. You knew it was.
That's it. No, I knew it was right. I rarely go back. And those kind of things, you sort of have to trust what happens, because it's almost like, it sounds corny. I hate like corny stuff like we're playing God or whatever else. But after I wrote it, that's what happened. To go back and make something different happen would feel artificial.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I was watching the conclusion of Dare Me, the series, and they actually said they had 2 different endings on the show, and they were trying to decide which way to go because they were looking at it. We're going to talk about film a little bit later on, but it was a different thing. Like as soon as you fit the ending in the book, it's like, that works. I'm done.
Well, I actually did that when I filmed this TV show in France called No Second Chance. And I filmed 2 endings. Basically, I filmed one ending that we filmed it, and it was really like, it ends beautifully. Like it's sort of happy and whatever. And then because I'm not normal or whatever, I then had like literally 30 or 40 more seconds that took this happy ending and just boom, turned it all on its head. And after I watched it, and I was sure we were going to go with the dark ending. I was sure. And after I watched it, I'm like, nah, we put her through too much to do that. Let's cut the last 40 seconds. And what we ended up doing was we released it on the web. So after the show aired in France, I actually came on and said, thanks very much for watching. If you want to watch a little bit more, go to this website. So we kind of had our cake and ate it too.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And I think it's interesting for people to see the mindset of the creator of, this is not the way things always go. It does shift around.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. So when you write in a corner, write yourself into a corner, which has to happen, can you pivot pretty quickly?
No, I mean, some days it's quick, some days it's hard. I mean, a lot of times you write yourself into a corner and it can take a long time to get out of that corner. So there's nothing that's ever consistent. I mean, writing is really, and I don't mean in a way like ditch digging is, it's hard. There's days that seem to be okay, but for the most part, it's really hard to get yourself to sit where I'm sitting now and to start typing and writing. I haven't done it in over a week, which is probably the longest I've gone. But that's not, it's just, so some days, it seems to go easier than others, but I write myself into corners a lot. Nothing is ever easy about it. I wish it was. And I know after I read it, like I was rereading this, or I was listening to the audio, because it's great. If you love audio, Steven Weber,
Yeah.
who you may remember from the TV show Wings and a lot of other shows. He's a great actor, great guy. And it's so funny. His Hester Krimstein, I'm like, you sound just like a Jewish grandmother. He goes, I was imitating Howard Stern, imitating his mother. So it was like that. Anyway, so I was listening to it, and even now I'm like, geez, what was so hard about that? Everything seems to flow so smoothly after the fact.
Right.
So it's like the sausage. You don't want to know how it was made.
You know, that's amazing. You know, it's interesting you say that about audio too, because a lot of authors have said they're reading their books aloud to themselves now because audio has become so important that sometimes you hear the redundancy of words and it's like, I just said that like 12 times. I wrote it. It looks fine writing, not hearing. So
I've always done that. My last step is always to sit in a room and read my entire book to myself, which, man, it's a tough day. But I've always done that, not because of audio's popularity, just because that helps. It's like, listen, like you, as a musician, a composer listening to the musical piece, you're listening for false notes. I do the same thing with the TV shows. We have what's called table reads, which is exactly what it sounds, but it's just the coolest thing in the world. You know, you've written this thing and you think it's really good. And now you sit at a big giant table with all of the actors who have the scripts in front of them, and now they're going to read it. And I always make enormous amount of changes after the table read. But again, it's like listening to a musical piece for the first time. And now I'm going to change it around. Now I'm going to hear the false notes.
Yeah, I'll see what's going on. We're also at the end of, we're doing this as both a video and a podcast. And at the end of the podcast, we're going to put an excerpt from the audiobook. So we like to do that so people can hear they can hear the narrator. It's absolutely terrific. I gave it a little listen the other day. So when you're working, do you like say you go into a whole, you know, do you toss pages if they're not working or do you hold them someplace? Do you put like a little file of say use again, maybe, possibly?
Well, I do. I mean, this is, I've told this story a couple of times, but I think it's kind of an interesting point for the writers out there. So I have a file called spare. That's what I call it. And so if I'm not sure about something, I cut it out and I put it in the spare file so I can always look at it and take it back. So the book's 500 pages. Spare can be anywhere from 50 minimum to 150 pages. I've written 31 books, we decided. I've never once put anything back, not one.
Right.
Point is you can cut. You can always cut. You know, either Hemingway or Faulkner, because they're both given credit for it, said you have to kill all your darlings. And that's really important. As a writer, you have to be brutally, you know, cut to the bone. So I recommend doing that, and then I recommend not putting it back. So somewhere around, I have 500, you know, thousands of pages of unused material, which hopefully will never see the light of day.
Which you just didn't actually need. So you get stuck. You get stuck at points. Do you and Laszlo go for a nice long walk? You guys go bond and take a walk around town?
Where's Laszlo? Laszlo was here a second ago. Yeah, where's Laszlo? Laszlo was here a second ago.
He's your intrepid companion. He's your intrepid companion, you know?
Yes, Laszlo's, oh, there she is. Hey, come here. You want to say hi? No? Okay.
I love that Laszlo was a girl the other day. I mean, the things you find during a crisis, you know? Really, seriously.
Hey, come here. Come here, hold on. There she is.
She's so cute.
Laszlo.
Laszlo.
Sometimes taking a walk helps. Sometimes just sitting here knocking my head against the wall helps. Sometimes you do have to realize that it does need time. It's the hardest thing to realize. Not necessarily writing block. You do need time. So you can't beat yourself up all the time, but I usually do anyway.
Yeah, you do that. You're very adept at beating yourself up. I know this about you.
Yeah, that's totally part of my thing.
So you did something really interesting with this book a couple of months ago where you tested covers with readers. And you had a couple of covers up there. And I found this to be what I've been talking about this for a while to other authors and other publishers, because I found it was so interesting because I had a pick right at the beginning. And then I started reading people's comments and I saw why people were saying what they did. And tell us a little bit about like why you decided to do that.
I thought we had the cover for sure. I mean, I loved one particular cover, but actually what happened in this case was a couple major retailers didn't like it. And listen, it's not for me, it's for retailers. And so you have to also accept what you're good at, what you're not. So, you know, you can be stubborn saying, no, my artistic vision is that, but that's nonsense. So when that happened, I put two of them up and I thought one would win easy. And it seemed to me, I lost count. So someone else did it. It was a pretty close vote.
Right.
And what they ended up doing is using neither one. They took the color of one and the design of another. So the blue one, which I really liked, that was the same design as this.
Right.
And there was a yellow one that was more of a graphic. And also someone came out with a yellow cover that looked like the other one. We didn't want to do that. So they came up with this one, which was a combination of the two. I really like it. But I love that, I'm not great with covers. There's things you're good and bad at, or, and British cover is completely different. Different markets do different things. And the British cover, is much more, it's not as esoteric as this one. So
Yeah, I was looking at
whatever you dig.
the audio cover this morning, unless I was wrong, looked more like the British cover, but I don't know whether I was just looking at the wrong thing. I'm not sure what I was
Maybe,
doing.
I don't know.
I might have been doing the wrong thing. If readers, I know you signed a bunch of book plates the other day, so I'm going to check with your publisher and make sure we have where people can get those, and we'll put them in our show notes.
Also, if you go to harlancoben.com and you look at them under my appearances, all the places I was supposed to go, the tour, of course, is canceled. All of those stores will have it, and so you don't have to hold it up. They'll send send your book now, and we'll mail them later on. Anybody who wants one just should call one of those stores. I'm going to sign a bunch of them, as many as I can. I want to make sure anybody who wants one gets one.
Yeah.
And also, if you are ordering from one of those bookstores, order another book, not just mine. I want you to order mine, but I'm happy. I just, trying to keep those stores in business. And I understand, look, a lot of people can't get out. A lot of people also, I'm not necessarily an ebook, I'm not an ebook advocate, though I certainly read them. But if you don't want to leave your house, use an ebook. Don't feel bad about it. And if you don't have an ebook, you can download the apps right on here. They have Kindle or Nook or whatever else. I'm not trying to financially plug somebody, but you're sitting at home. Maybe you're alone. Maybe you still want to read a book and you don't have a Kindle or a Nook or whatever else. You can use your tablet. You can use actually a computer or a laptop, and you can even read it on your phone and download it. So I don't want you to be without a book. Always the first choice for me is get it from a great bookseller, but do what you have to do at this time.
Well, it's also, if you ordered via Libro FM, you can actually identify the indie store that you want to get the credit for it. So we can do, if you're doing audio, that's another thing to think about.
That's always the best.
Now, you're also a huge reader as well as a writer. How do you balance reading and writing? Like, do you read every day?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote since I was a kid. I read the back of the cold cereal boxes. It's too bad that's gone now. We look at our phones instead of the back of cold cereal boxes. Anyway, yeah, I read a tremendous amount. I read almost though exclusively fiction when it comes to books. I mean, I read nonfiction articles all day long too, especially now. But I read fiction, but I read a tremendous variety of it. Some of the picks that I've been doing, I'm putting on Twitter right now. Right. So that people can find new books and new authors. I'm not doing the obvious names that we all know, and the people who read me all probably already read. So I'm trying to introduce you to some new authors, some new TV shows, some new movies. But yeah, that's the answer.
Yeah, it's like really. So right now you're doing a lot of movie work as well. You're doing a lot. We're going to get into talking about that. How do you segment your writing time, reading time, and film time? Because film time it's often at a table with a group of people or on a lot of conference calls.
Yeah, I'm not really good about saying 8 till 11 I'll do one, 11 to 2 I'll do another. I usually try to do the TV stuff early in the morning because most of them are filmed in Europe. So when I wake up in the morning, they have what's called the rushes, the dailies, the things they filmed the day before, and I can watch them on the computer. And I could do that to sort of get a running start. I make the comments on it, and I go about the day. What I've also found is that one sort of feeds the other. So you've written as many novels as I am. You're naturally an introvert. You spend a lot of time alone in a room, and that's great. But it's been fun to get out of it for a little while. But as soon as I go on set and I'm there for a few days and I'm working with the actors and the directors and all that, after a few days, I start to lose my mind. And all I want to do is run back and be in this room and be alone. And so I write. And then when I get too lonely, I can go back out. So far, knocking all kinds of wood, the world might change how fast I write. But I've still been able to do one book a year with doing, 5 TV shows in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's been great. It's been a really great thing.
You always portray yourself as this guy who likes to be around the house, and I know that about you. You like to be around the house. You're like to research from your chair, all these kinds of things. But whenever I see you, you have one of the highest energy levels, and it's always such a pleasure to be around you as a result. And I don't know if you just turn it on when I see you, but it's you can really infuse a room with a lot of energy. And I think that's what's one of the things is working so great for you, working in film. I agree with you. I've sat on film sets. I made documentaries before I started this company. And they'd sit there and set up the shot, and I'd say, okay, I'm going back to the office. Like, call me when you're ready.
So boring.
And people go, oh, it must be so much fun to be there. And I was like, no, it is like watching paint dry. I mean, it's really
so boring.
bad.
Right.
Yeah. But
No, it's true. Yeah, no, but I find it, it's fun for a day or two, and I go because it's work. I have to buck up the troops. It's my job to meet all of the actors, let them know that if there's a question, they can contact me, the director, whoever it is, whatever. But I don't know anybody really who's done it for a while who likes being there a lot all the time when people are working. Yeah.
I went to a couple weeks ago, was lucky enough to go to the premiere of The Stranger that you did.
Yes. Yeah.
That's such a terrific night. And what I really loved was first of all, watching the show. Okay, we watched this first episode. My son walked out and he goes, was that 12 possible plots? Like, okay, how many angles are we going? And he goes, okay, we've got the alpaca, and it was really funny as we were walking to the car. But I loved hearing you talk, and maybe we can share a little bit with our readers about what it's like when you're working with Netflix, when it drops to, 117 countries the same day?
Well, what happens is midnight Pacific time, whatever day it's dropping, it drops in 190 countries, basically everything but North Korea and parts of China, I think. Really, it's that many. All 8 episodes. So it's a very heady thing. And the reaction when you wake up that morning or within 2 or 3 days on Twitter or social media or your email, wow. I mean, especially The Stranger kind of went, not to make a joke right now, viral.
It did.
It really had a lot of viewers. It hit one, both in the US and the UK and a lot of other countries. It was one of their top shows for a long time. And the reaction, was just so much fun. And it was really great to see. And we all worked so hard on it. And then boom, it just happens. It's almost like a book release where, it happens all at once. Other TV shows, you watched one a week for 22 weeks in the old days. This is boom. It's all out there. A lot of people I know sitting at home right now are watching The Stranger, and then they go and they watch Safe, then they go and they watch The Five. Mm-hmm. So for my Americans, they've got 3 different shows that they can watch on Netflix, one after the other. And right now, I'm happy that that's something that's giving people the distraction from what's going on.
Yeah, something to be able to go do. And what I also loved you were talking about was how they promote them differently. Like some of them say Harlan Coben.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And
so in other words, when you probably recognize this, but when you go under Netflix and you look at a show, you probably notice that sometimes the poster changes, sometimes the artwork changes. But Netflix does that. So they make up, say, 20 different posters for the show. One will have the lead man, one will have the lead woman, one will have the stranger looking mysterious, one will have just a house in the distance, one will have Jennifer Saunders because she's very popular, one will have the teenagers because that maybe will appeal to the people who like the young adult shows. And they put ones on for you specifically, and if you're not reacting to it, they will change it.
Right.
So watch that when you put on a show. Put on The Stranger now, and my guess is you will probably see, right now the most popular I think is The House, maybe, I don't know, or The Stranger herself, but maybe you'll see 2 men talking or 2 women talking, and next time you go on, it's something different. They're calculating and trying to figure out what's going to draw your attention.
I started watching a series, not because I watched The Stranger quickly, a series the other day, and I hadn't finished it, and I got notes from Netflix.
Yeah,
and I
thought, hey, what's going on?
I mean, you should only have on a book, it's like, hey, you're on page 93, keep reading. I mean,
right.
They were like, oh, you want to get back to the show. And it was these constant reminders that they've got these algorithms on the back,
Right. Well, they know what you're watching for sure.
Yeah, they're totally.
If you are reading on a Kindle or something like that, they know what you're reading.
So the show that's being shot in Poland right now, The Woods, is the one that's being shot
done.
there.
We finished it.
You finished filming?
It's all in the can. It's all been cut. I've seen the whole thing. So it'll be out. I can't say when it'll be out, but it's all done. We're all finished with it. Yeah. I'm really happy with it. It's completely different than The Stranger. The Stranger is bonkers, intentionally so. We had fun, constant twists and turns. The Woods is more sedate. It's really beautifully filmed. It's much more atmospheric. There's no gasping moments like that, but it's really well done. I'm very happy with it. And I love that it's very different from The Stranger.
Now, is The Boy from the Woods slated for film or not yet?
Well, nothing's happened yet, but Netflix really owns all of my standalone novels. I shouldn't say owns. they're optioning with me as executive producer all the standalone novels.
Mm-hmm.
So The Stranger's the first one, The Woods is second, The Innocents will be third. We're making another announcement pretty soon, which I can't quite say about the next one. And Boy from the Woods is right now optioned by Netflix. That's as much as I can say. I'm not even sure they've had a chance to read it yet. We've had a chance to go through it.
Everything's been so absolutely crazy, but it is an option for people to be able to go watch the shows on Netflix, to be able to sit there. I mean, the watch has got to be through the roof right now if people just stuck in their homes,
I'm hoping you read me, you watch me, the whole thing.
Exactly. Are you working on a new book now?
I am about halfway through the next book, which is scheduled to be out a year from right now. Every year in March, right around now is when my book comes out, the third Tuesday usually in March. So I'm working on it now, but I never talk about it while I'm writing it.
And
I can't wait to start talking about it. I'm really excited about it.
I joke with authors, I never ask. People say, do you want to know what the book's about? And I said, no. I said, when you're ready, you tell me. And we work with
exactly. Thank you.
Websites for authors. I said, when you're ready, you'll tell me what it's about and I'll read it,
Well, you've been in the business a while. You understand it. Good.
Yeah. And you know what? Things change along the way. I mean, and I know that, authors, they painted themselves up against a wall. I mean, there was one author that said, I've now written it from 3 different points of view. I think I got it, So it's, you see what things are going to do. So I know that the one sport that you play once in a while is golf. Once in a while. Just remember, social distancing right now, you can do really well on the golf course. My husband went out.
That's when you can. Yeah, that's when you can still do.
Yeah, he said that's one of the
few
few
way
things.
I play. I'm not near anybody.
Yeah.
I'm in woods a lot. I can be the boy from the woods while I golf, but I don't go near anybody.
You don't go near anybody. You don't do anything special. So anything else you want to share with us?
No, I'm very happy with it. I'm hoping everybody stays safe and socially isolates as much as possible, and look forward to seeing you guys on book tour or on the other side of all of it.
That's exactly. Thank you so much for joining us today. I was so glad. As soon as I saw you weren't going to be touring, I said, I'm getting Harlan. I really want to talk to him.
Thanks, Carol. I appreciate that. It's always nice to talk to you. I hope to see you guys soon.
I hope to see you soon, too. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. And to everybody, Book Reporter Talks to, we'll be back to you with another author interview shortly. Bye-bye now.